Christina and Paul had been married for 4 years, but Christina had recently changed jobs. At her previous job, she had no opportunities for professional growth, and her salary was often delayed. However, her new job was much better in terms of working conditions and offered good prospects. At first, Paul was happy for his wife, because she refused to give up her old job, even though she liked the team where she worked. But she also made many friends at her new job. Unfortunately, Paul's joy did not last long. Already a month after starting work, Christina began to stay late at work. At first it was only half an hour, then an hour, and eventually 2 hours. At first Paul picked her up after work, but after several delays of 30 to 40 minutes, Christina insisted on getting home on her own. Concerned about the extended workday, Paul asked her if she was being compensated for those overtime hours. Christina replied that it was normal practice for newcomers to their company to gain the trust of management. She mentioned that the company uses different programs, and it takes more time than expected to complete tasks. Therefore, she had no choice but to work late hours. Since she was the only new employee, no one bothered her after work, and she could safely finish her tasks alone. Despite his misgivings, Paul reluctantly agreed to the delays. He realized that it was important for Christina to demonstrate her commitment to her job and her desire for long-term employment. He wanted to help her settle into her new workplace and prove herself. From time to time, the husband would check on his wife to make sure she wasn't overworking herself. One evening, he decided to call her, but she didn't answer for a long time. Concerned, he assumed that she might have gone somewhere far away or was busy doing something else and ended the call. After about 10 minutes, he tried calling her again, and this time she answered, sounding quite chipper. "Honey, you're running late at work. When will you be home?" he asked. "Oh, I'm still at work. I have one last thing to finish up. I'll be home soon," she replied. As Christina was about to hang up, there was a strange sound in the background that sounded like an alarm clock or notification. Pavel noticed it, but didn't pay much attention. Over the course of the week, he periodically heard similar sounds during their conversations, assuming they were computer notifications. One day after work, Paul arranged to meet with his old university friend Patrick. They agreed to meet at the mall, as his friend needed to pick up something from there and then grab a bite to eat. When Paul arrived, he noticed Patrick coming out of the appliance repair department looking extremely pleased. They exchanged greetings and Patrick exclaimed, "I finally got my smartwatch back. I felt lost without it all week." He continued to sort out his gadget, showing it to Pavel. While they were sitting in the cafe, Paul suddenly heard the familiar beeping again, which made him turn around to look for its source. "Yes, it's my watch," Patrick reassured him. "Don't be intimidated by it. You can also use it to set an alarm as a reminder." He turned off the sound, and the husband finally realized the source of the strange noise in the background. It was puzzling, because Christina had no such gadget, and she said she was the only new employee in Office 1. However, now the husband could not get rid of the feeling that his wife was hiding something from him. The next day, the husband decided to visit his wife's workplace to get a feel for the atmosphere and the people she works with. Under a plausible pretext, he took a day off and went to her office. As he approached her desk and they began to converse, Paul suddenly signaled to the woman to be quiet. The squeak returned. Intrigued, the husband turned in the direction of the sound and noticed a man at several desks. The man glanced carelessly at the screen of his smartwatch and then turned it off. Their gazes met when the man looked up and Paul recognized him. After carefully studying the stranger's face, the husband realized he had seen him before. It was the first day Paul had picked his wife up from work. As his wife was getting into the car, the man came out of the business center for a smoke. When the husband asked Christine about the man, she brushed him off, suggesting that it was probably someone from a neighboring office. She then quickly dispelled the suspicion that she was alone in the room, and Paul never doubted his wife for a second. She had always been truthful, and suddenly it turned out that this person was actually a coworker. They were socializing with other people near the refrigerator, joking and laughing. Feeling challenged, one of Christina's coworkers approached Paul and teasingly asked, "New girl's husband, huh?" Laughing, he added, "Lucky you." Another coworker joined in the banter, making a suggestive remark that drew Paul's ire. As the tension mounted, the colleague provocatively mentioned that he would stay late to show Christina a new program, causing her to blush and look away. An angry Paul quickly got into a fight with the man, leading to a physical brawl. Coworkers intervened in the chaos to break up the fight and escort Paul out of the office. Despite the bruises, Paul chose to end the scandal. Christina, flustered and embarrassed, followed her husband outside as he walked to his car. She was overcome with worry as she looked at the wounds on Paul's face. She reached out to touch him, but he yanked her hands away with force. "Don't you dare," he growled. "Tell me, did you sleep with him, darling? Look what you've done to yourself. Just admit it," her husband insisted, unwilling to back down. Tears came to Christina's eyes as she realized her secret was about to be revealed. She nodded slightly, covering her face with her hands. "How could you?" her husband whispered, disappointment audible in his voice. "What did you think was going to happen? Please forgive me," she sobbed. Her husband could barely contain his anger at the fragile woman. He rushed to the car and drove home, figuring Christina would have enough sense not to follow him back to the apartment. However, to his surprise, she showed up on his doorstep begging for forgiveness. She offered various solutions: quit her job, start a family, take care of him, and restore their once strong bond. Paul found her pleas absurd and coldly ordered her to pack her bags and leave. The next day, he filed for divorce. Christina took refuge with her unmarried sister, not expecting to continue her relationship with her former lover. All she wanted was to forget about the painful ordeal and continue her work in peace. She didn't know that this coworker had a reputation for having similar affairs with every new female employee he thought wouldn't stay with the company for long. As Christina's worries consumed her, she began to make more and more mistakes at work. Eventually, a gross error in dealing with a key client led to her termination. A wife's short-sightedness and a coworker's ego led to the destruction of another family. Every day, people are surrounded by a huge number of temptations, but the choice they make between family and momentary pleasure ultimately determines their future destiny.